Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Hello everybody, it is Tuesday, and we have a massive Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show in store for you today. Alongside myself, it's Jason Lloyd, it is Tyvis Powell. We have Earl, Ant, and Steve behind the glass, and there's three of us on the panel today, and we have three very special guests lined up for you in the next 2 hours. We have Ohio State head coach Ryan Day joining the show at 11:30. Him and Tyvis go way back in their Ohio State roots, and I'm very excited to see them reconvene on a publicly televised environment. We have Coach Otis Levert, who is Jameis Winston's quarterback coach, who's going to join us at noon to talk a little bit about what Jameis brings from a leadership standpoint and some of those crazy, unique drills they run through, how they originated. Then we have Danny Cunningham of the new Locked On Cavs podcast joining the show to help us break down what the finals meant in terms of the Cavs and what we can expect from the Cavs moving forward. But first, guys, happy Tuesday. It's about 90 degrees here in Cleveland. Tyvis, you're wearing shorts and Jason's wearing a sweatshirt. So
yeah.
Duality of man here.
Y'all out of line. You out of line.
It's air conditioning here.
Yes, it's so hot outside.
Yeah, I know
like
it
when
is.
you,
Like,
I'd rather just deal with the air conditioning right now. But like, you gonna be outside like all day.
I go from garage to garage. I go out my house, get in the garage, turn on the air conditioning, drive in here, park in the garage, walk in here in the air conditioning.
Well, if you're looking to lose weight, this is the perfect week to just you ain't even got to run. You ain't got to do a lot. You could go walk around the block and you will lose a good 2 pounds because it's hot out there.
Oh, I was sweating like a fat kid yesterday at the where my son works out for baseball because there's no air conditioning. It's just a big warehouse. And I was sitting there dripping, just on my phone while I'm sweating.
That's funny because I went outside of my garage. I was looking for some stuff that my wife stored away in my garage, and I had worked out before, but I sweated more in that garage looking for something than I did in my workout. It's bad.
I threw my back out yesterday too.
Oh, watching AJ hit you through your back?
No, I was working out and like
you wasn't working.
I was.
Boy.
I know.
Listen, how you gonna sit here and get up here and lie to these people like that?
I work out at least once a week.
I worked out.
It's supposed to be 3 days.
What you do?
It's a full hour workout. It's a legit workout.
Give me one thing you did. What?
Sleds, ropes, curls.
You did
push-ups.
that? Really?
Yeah. I'm in better shape than you think. I mean, I know I'm fat, but I'm in better shape than you think. But we were doing these like on your toes, like on your tiptoes, step, and then curl, curl, curl.
Okay.
And I like on my toes, and I've done it before. But I curled, and I like felt something grabbing my back, and like
that's called age.
It really is, man.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I'm getting old, man. I'm gonna be 48 next month. I'm an old man, and my kids remind me of that all the time.
Ty, what do you think he was curling a pose back out on some tiptoes?
He wasn't curling nothing but a beer bottle. Don't let him lie to you.
How much weight do you think I had? How much weight do you think I had?
In your hand?
Yeah,
15 pounds. Nah, that's a 10.
Oh my!
To do. Are you doing tiptoe, step, curl?
10.
Yeah, step, curl.
10.
No,
I'm going to give him 25s.
I had 40s, I'll have you know.
Did you really?
That's probably why I threw my back out.
That's impressive.
Because normally I do 35s, and like it's a class, so it's like 1 minute and then move. Yeah, you go.
Okay.
And I couldn't find 35s. So I just grabbed the 40s.
That was dumb.
And I think that's why. Like you just and plus like you know how you throw your shoulder into it a little bit. And so I like threw my shoulder into it, and I felt
and that's definitely the pull of the back.
Yes, and I felt it grab. I was like, oh man! And the dude who runs the class is awesome. He was great.
You want to shout him out?
Yeah, Coach Theo at FMU in Avon, man. He was great.
You better
and
get
he's
you
like,
a foam roller.
Well, that's what he did. He grabbed the foam roller immediately. He goes, here, get like foam roll it out. So I foam rolled for a couple minutes, and then he had me do like a plank. He said, if you stretch your chest, it'll loosen your back, which I never knew that. So we tried that, and then I got a massage yesterday, and that helped work it out. So I actually feel better today than I thought I was going to.
The massage usually takes 2 days to kick. You should feel the best tomorrow.
Well, she beat the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And it was like one of those, like, they lift the sheet and they say, okay, turn over.
Yeah.
I could not move. It hurt so bad. I'm like, I don't know if I can turn over.
You got a real deep tissue massage. You should be sore today, but feel great tomorrow.
Oh, man, it was rough. It was rough.
Make sure you hydrate, though. That's the biggest thing.
Well, I got my coffee.
Nah.
One form of hydration is it's a steel.
This is my second
steel container. We don't really know what's in there.
It's my second pot.
We don't know what's in there.
We don't know what's in there.
Could be vodka.
Coffee and a little bourbon.
Yeah.
Stick around at 12:30. Let's see how things go.
Awesome. We got a bunch of topics we're going to get into first. And before we do that, we're going to check in with Earl from behind the glass. What's up, Earl?
What up, brother? Y'all ready to go?
Let's rock.
All right, summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more. You can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and add a big win to your summer buckets list. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book.
We got news yesterday. The Cleveland Browns will be featured on the first ever full division Hard Knocks. The AFC North will be the debut of this new in-season Hard Knocks format. It was clearly the best division of football, and HBO agreed. The camera crews will follow around the Browns, the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Steelers for the final 6 weeks of the regular season, gearing up towards that Week 18 all-divisional game weekend, which hopefully could determine whether or not the Browns are your division champs or whether or not they're a wild card team or whatnot. Tyvis, They've been on Hard Knocks before. They've never been on a Hard Knocks like this. It starts on December 3rd. 2 questions. How excited are you to get some behind-the-scenes footage of the Browns in the final 6 weeks of the season as they gear up for what we hope is a playoff run? And secondly, do they have a strong enough culture to handle the cameras and distractions that come along with Hard Knocks being inside the locker room, inside team meetings, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, first off, absolutely they got the personalities. I mean, you think Jameis Winston, for one, is going to be phenomenal on Hard Knocks. I mean, you think of just, Myles Garrett. You got Nick Chubb probably be back. And the thing about the Browns is a lot of the people that we love and like to watch, we don't get to see them in a locker room setting. Like, we get to see them when they deal with the media. But I hear a lot of them, like Amari Cooper, even Nick Chubb, in that setting, in the locker room type setting, they actually show their character a lot. So I think it'll give us an inside view of what these guys really are like, and you get to see how fun some of them really are. So I think from that perspective, it's great that these guys will be able to show their personalities. I don't think it'll be a distraction to them because I think that the Browns realized that they did something special last year, and the only thing they can do is they have to build off of that. So I think that they're going to be locked in. And by the way, I think Kevin Stefanski does a great job of keeping everybody engaged. I think that's one of the reasons that I really do love him as a head coach for the Cleveland Browns is because he does a great job of managing crisis. So with this distraction coming in, I think he'll still keep everybody locked in. And at the end of the day, the Browns have playoff and Super Bowl aspirations. You never know what the roster is going to look like past this season, so you got to go all for it on this year, and I think the Browns understand that, and I think they will be locked in and engaged for that.
This will be the first time I've watched Hard Knocks in at least 5 years.
Did you watch it the last time the Browns was on it?
Yeah, I think that's probably the last time I watched it.
Okay.
Like, the show felt like it ran its course, right? Like,
I mean,
you've got the feel-good training camp stories that they follow, and like it was cutting edge when it first came out. It was like, oh, this is an unbelievable access, and then it became very sort of repetitive.
Yeah,
I can't believe that, like, Kevin Stefanski is good with this. Like,
I don't think he had a choice.
No, I'm sure he didn't, because I'm saying, like, this is a guy who, on the record, doesn't want to confirm to you that Deshaun Watson will be the starting quarterback for the Browns if he's healthy. Like, he'll give you nothing, on the record, nothing. And yet now they have to open up and let the cameras in. Now the good thing is it's not just the Browns. There's 3 other teams. This is the best division to do this for.
100%.
It's if you got to pick one division, this is the division to do it. And by having 4 teams and spreading it out, it'll soften the spotlight. The fact that it won't come out until December is a good thing. It's not like this is a year-long thing where they have to answer questions about it every single week, sort of like they have to do in the preseason when these things air. But, the flip side of that is if it starts December 3rd, well, that's in the heat of, you're trying to make the playoffs then.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how it goes. Like I said, I haven't watched the show in forever. I've sort of lost interest in it, but I'll be watching this year.
Yeah, Hard Knocks did something similar to this the last 2 years with Arizona and Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch
Well, it's Arizona and Indianapolis. Why would you want to see that?
Second of it. The way I looked at this when I heard this yesterday was there are only two options for this. There's no in between. It is a this or that. This is going to be absolutely incredible because if the Browns are as good as we think they can be and Deshaun Watson plays up to the level we hope he can and Nick Chubb comes back and Myles Garrett comes back and Jameis Winston, which you alluded to earlier, Tyvis, we're going to get some behind-the-scenes footage that we never would have gotten otherwise about the Browns potentially fighting and hopefully clinching a playoff spot in a division title. And the access we'll get from Hard Knocks, if that's how it plays out, will be incredible. And it's stuff that we simply could not and would not get unless HBO was following the Browns, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Bengals around. Now, those 6 games, by the way, the 6 games they're going to follow, at Denver, at Pittsburgh, versus the Chiefs, at Cincy, versus Miami, and at Baltimore. So you want to talk about a gauntlet of games to follow?
Right time, too.
It is the perfect time if the season's going well. I told you it's a this or that. That was the this. The that is if the season goes to shambles. The Browns, for whatever reason, aren't particularly good. They're out of it. Deshaun Watson's not playing up to the level that we expect him to. It is going to be an absolute catastrophe to watch because someone else is going to be winning the division. And they're going to be focused on that while the entire Browns segment is going to be focused on dysfunction, Deshaun's poor play, Nick Chubb not being back. All the stuff that we don't want to talk about, and by the end of the season, we just want to put in our rearview mirror and get behind us, is going to be brought back to the forefront. There's no in between.
What's the date of that first one?
December 3rd is the first episode.
Okay.
There's Tuesday night.
All right, cool. So that trade deadline have been passed by then. That would have been actually very interesting to see if they got it like leading up to a trade deadline and if somebody got traded to see how that would react. But no, they absolutely did it right. I think, listen, they giving the Browns all. We've been talking about how the Browns get nobody nationally talks about the Browns. Oh, they done so well last year. Nobody really talked about them. The NFL said, we're going to fix y'all this year. We giving y'all the first game with Tom Brady's first nationally televised game. So they gave you that week 1, and now they giving you this. They giving you all the exposure.
Browns are off probation.
And they give you a gauntlet of a schedule that's going to be on a lot of night games like that. You're going to get all the exposure. We're going to find out about the Cleveland Browns this year. Last year, it was, everybody calls it a nice story. And I always say they might have creeped up on some people. People didn't really know what to expect with the Cleveland Browns until they got in the game and the Browns punched them dead in the mouth. Now everybody kind of expects the Browns that they're good. It's a good team now. They got the right pieces. How do you do when you know that the team is prepared for a juggernaut of a game? And we're going to find out them 6 weeks that Hard Knocks, we're going to see exactly what it's supposed to be.
It's the hunter versus the hunted mentality.
Yeah.
And last year, despite the fact that a lot of us here thought the Browns should be competitive, I think the national media for the most part, some of them said they could be a threat, but for the most part, they're not as good as the top teams in the
Everybody
AFC.
thought that the Browns would do the Browns thing eventually.
Yeah. And this year, and we talked about it, we did the team roster rankings yesterday, the 33rd team, had them as the 3rd best roster in football. The Ringer ranked their top 10 defenses entering next season. The Browns were number 1. Like, they ain't catching up, and they're not sneaking up on anybody this year. And to your point, Tyvis, 4 primetime games. They're featured on Hard Knocks. They got the Tom Brady debut. They're in a number of other marquee games that may not be Thursday night or Sunday night. They're going to get primetime, nationally televised TV slots. And, Jason, I don't know when the last time the Browns have had this much attention heading into a season.
Odell
was that?
It was the year of Odell. There was a ton of attention.
So half a decade at a minimum.
They got the primetime game when Odell went back to the Giants. And, to Tyvis's earlier point, the Browns, the league was trying to hide the Browns because of the Deshaun, the mess that came with Deshaun. Like his return game to Houston, you would think would be a primetime Sunday night, Monday night type game. They buried it at 1:00, and they try to keep him off national TV as much as possible. Well, that's like probation's been lifted.
It's over.
That's over, and now the Browns are one of the marquee teams, and they're getting with the marquee team treatment.
Do you agree with Tyvis that they have the culture to sustain having the cameras inside the locker room, inside the meetings, based off what Stefanski, Andrew Berry, Jim Schwartz, the leaders of the team have built?
If you can withstand what they went through last year with injuries, you can withstand some cameras.
Yeah.
That was far more devastating. Trying to survive without Nick Chubb, trying to survive without your quarterback, all the injuries they had across the line. To thrive under those circumstances, a few cameras shouldn't affect it. And again, like you do have some buffer here where you got September, October, November, where you don't have to answer. Like none of this is public. You don't have to answer for anything. So I don't think Kevin probably loves the idea of opening his locker room to cameras and microphones. But ultimately, I think overcoming what they overcame last year is far more significant than some cameras and microphones this year.
We'll move on in 1 sec, Ty. You mentioned Jameis Winston earlier as a guy who, the more cameras that are around Jameis, the better it is for us because we're going to get awesome content. The dude just is genuinely hysterical.
Yeah.
Outside of Jameis, I think he's the right answer. Who's someone else you're excited to see with this unprecedented access give you maybe a little more than we would see in a traditional press conference, media scrum interaction?
Well, see, it's different for me because I hear a lot of them, and since I do the Brown stuff, I actually hear stories and I hear about a lot of them. But a guy that I want,
like, who do you think will be a star when this comes out for the Browns?
a star. I think a guy like Juan Thornhill will be a star. Why Juan Thornhill? Because Juan Thornhill he's energy. We talked about how G New was big with the energy on the defense, and we saw him doing the dances. But when I went to OTAs last year, the person that talked the most trash on the defense was Juan Thornhill. And I seen some clips from OTAs this year. He's still on the same thing. Obviously, we know he's taking some shots on Twitter about to Browns fans that's been speaking negatively. I think that if you get to see him and follow him around and see how he interacts in practice, I think people will become a fan because you'll see how passionate he is, how he can make practice better just from being a competitor and challenging wide receivers and stuff like that. So I think he could become a star from this.
Jason?
That's a good question. So we're taking out the obvious guys.
Like
Miles.
No Chubb, no Watson, no Miles.
I'm going to make Earl very happy. I think Emerson. Martin Emerson is he's got a lot of personality in the locker room. You don't always see it. I think he's a guy who gets like JOK. I think people. I told JOK one time. I think he's unbelievably intelligent.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that he loves doing media. Mm-hmm. And a little bit like Nick in that sense, but. In this setting, it's a little bit different. So I think a guy like JOK, a little bit more of his personality could come out. So I'll say Emerson and JOK.
JOK was who I was going to say, but because you didn't say Wyatt Teller, I'll go with Wyatt Teller, who, as soon as you put him in front of the camera, I do feel like Wyatt Teller's personality is going to shine some of the stuff we've heard about Wyatt. Off the record is just incredible in terms of the person he is, the personality he brings. You see a little bit on social media. His wife talks about it on social media a ton. And I think Wyatt Teller, who offensive linemen, as good as they are, they don't get enough appreciation for what they actually do. No matter how good Trent Williams, Bitonio, like the best ones in the league, even though we talk about them, we don't talk about them enough because of how important they are to everything that happens on offense. And a guy like Wyatt Teller in an opportunity like this where they're getting behind-the-scenes stuff, in the locker room kind of content, I think Wyatt Teller is going to come across an absolute superstar from this.
One of the first lessons you learn beat writing 101 when you cover football, go talk to the offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Like that's in almost every locker room, unfailingly, those guys are the gems. They know everything. They're super smart, and they know everything that's going on in the locker room. And that's one of the first rules is, safeties too.
Thank you.
Yeah, safety.
I saw you looking at me
I'm looking at
like
you
a scolded dog.
Really?
Look like I just hit you in the nose with a newspaper.
Just like the safeties don't know everything, and they know the off the field stuff. What do you mean?
Awesome. Earl, you want to do a read? We'll move on to our next topic here.
Yeah, don't forget to catch the Ultimate Cleveland Browns show every Monday and Wednesday, hosted by G. Bush, as he keeps us in the know with everything related to the Browns as we inch closer to training camp. So catch G on the Ultimate Browns show every Monday, every Wednesday. Andrew Berry was on NFL Network show The Insider yesterday, and he spoke about Deshaun Watson being ahead of schedule. He also spoke a little bit about the Amari Cooper holdout contract situation. So, Mike, take it away.
Yeah, I thought he said three big things that at least we could discuss here from his interview with The Insider. It's about 10 minutes long. He said Deshaun's ahead of schedule and, quote, If you didn't know he got hurt last season and you just saw him in the spring, you wouldn't know he's hurt. He said he's looking forward to Nick Chubb taking the field again for the first time, one of the most anticipated moments of the year for the Cleveland Browns. And do we have Coach here, Earl, before I go? I just got a message from Steve. All right, well, we're going to hold this topic till afterwards because we are now joined by Ryan Day, the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Coach, thanks for taking some time to join us today. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing great, Coach. We got Tyvis Powell here, Jason Lloyd, and Mikey McNuggets. We appreciate you taking some time. And, Coach, we had Dane Brugler on the show yesterday, and he was talking about his early 2025 draft prep and said he was already looking at Ohio State. And he said there's potentially more players that will get drafted off this Ohio State team than any team in the history of college football. All Ohio State teams are talented. You guys recruit at an elite level. But do you get the sense that this team has something special to it in terms of talent-wise that just puts it even ahead of some of the other great teams in Buckeyes past?
Well, I think what makes this team different is, we've always had talent, but the talent this year is more veteran. When these guys decided to come back, we got a lot of fourth and fifth year guys that decided to forego the NFL draft and come back. A lot of them will tell you they have an unfinished business. A lot of them have personal goals, but their team goals are to win the rivalry game, win the Big Ten championship, win a national championship. And I think that's probably the thing that you notice the most about this team is just more experience and more veteran. But it is a great group. They're coming together this summer and having a great June. We've been very, very busy here in June. But it is, and this year is going to be a new year because of the playoff. And so there's new challenges ahead for us. But I think we're in a position to really make a great run.
Coach, you're in a interesting situation because you took over in 2019 and college football was a certain way. You fast forward to just 5 years later and it's so many rule changes, so many different things. How have you been able to adjust to those as a head coach?
Yeah. Well, Tyvis, just so many changes that have been going on. And it's almost like in the last 5 years, every year there's been something new. You think about how COVID kind of hit in 2020 and then, what that season was like. And then every year there's been something different. And so it's almost like you just come to the conclusion that every year there's going to be something different that's going on. And we have to adapt with the times. And, I feel like we're very, very well positioned. And a big part of that, and it goes back all the way to the history of Ohio State football, and Woody Hayes said you win with people, is just surrounding ourselves with great people. And, former players like yourself, parents, current players, recruits, family members, people in the community, just all of the people that make Ohio State great have surrounded our program the last couple of years. And I think between the players, the coaches, and staff members, we have a great group of people. And a lot of things have changed, but a lot of things haven't. And so ultimately we're going to count on the people making the difference this year.
Kind of along those lines of change, I can't recall another Power 5 head coach leaving that position to go be an OC somewhere else. How did that come about with Chip Kelly? And do you approach him? Does he approach you? I know you guys have a deep history going all the way back to New Hampshire, but how does that come about to where he wants to jump from where he's at to come work for you?
Well, like you said, we always had a lot of conversations. We're very good friends. It goes back a long way. And, he shared with me that after the bowl game, when he had an opportunity to coach the quarterbacks leading up to his bowl prep, he really missed that part of it. And, that stuck with me. And so as we started to, push towards hiring an offensive coordinator, I had a few guys in mind, and he was certainly one of them. But I know for him, it wasn't easy because I know he really wanted to create a succession plan there in place because of all the people that, work under you. It's one thing to just take another job, but when you care about relationships, it's not that easy. And the timing, the second time around was just right. And, boy, he's had great energy. You can tell he loves being in the meeting room with those guys and working the game that he loves. And the game has changed a lot, but the X's and O's haven't. And he's dove into that and done a great job building a relationship with our players in a short period of time. I know he's excited about this team.
Coach, the Columbus to Cleveland pipeline has been broken open the last 2 years between the Browns drafting Mike Hall Jr. in the second round this year. Last year it was Luke Whippler, Ronnie Hickman, DeJuan Jones. Hickman and Jones in particular had really successful rookie seasons when they played. Are you surprised at all that those two were able to make such immediate contributions on the NFL level in their rookie seasons?
I'm proud of both of them, but I'm not surprised. When you come to Ohio State, and we talk about this in recruiting, every day in practice you're going against great players. So we say iron sharpens iron. It's been said a long time around here. But if you can cover Marvin Harrison, then you can cover anybody. If you can block JT Tuimoloau, you can block anybody in the country. If you can get around Jimmy Simmons, then you can rush the passer against anybody. And so it's just this ongoing thing in practice where you're sharpening your game. It's not the 12 Saturdays in the fall during the regular season. It's the everyday grind. And it isn't just on the field, it's off the field. Guys who have an elite mindset, who want to be great. And so I think for those guys to step into that environment, it wasn't too big for them. And I think you're seeing that with a lot of our players. They're not just going on to the NFL. It's what they're doing with that opportunity, and you're seeing a lot of them succeed.
Coach, last year you guys went into the season with kind of still of a quarterback battle between Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. You go into the transfer portal, you get Will Howard, Devin Brown is still there, you add Julian Sang, Lincoln King, all of these guys. And, you leave out of spring ball with not necessarily a number one quarterback. Do you think it'll take as long this year to name a starting quarterback, or is that something that you hope get addressed right away?
Yeah, I hope not, but we'll kind of see how the battle goes. I think we're going to need a bunch of guys in that room. And the one thing about all of them is they can run. And I think that's significant. And, the guys are going to have to be that sixth weapon on the field in terms of the skill guy, and whether it's extending plays or counting in the run game, pulling the ball, reading people. We need all those guys to do that, and so that room has got to win. That room has got to be the best room in the country. I know we are going to have to identify where the reps are going to go here in the preseason, and so I'd like to see some separation there. But that room has got to be strong, and I think you're going to see a lot of them play this year.
Is that one of the big changes as we talk about the evolution of college football? I mean, if Kyle McCord beats Michigan, he's probably still a quarterback. Is that fair? And like that one loss, and now all of a sudden he's in the portal and you've got a whole new room of guys that you're trying to sort through. I can't imagine that happening 10 years ago.
It's a different world. It is. Yeah, there's no question. And, we know the expectations here. We know what's on the line every time you come to Ohio State, and we embrace it. And that's the same way in recruiting. And, we know what we need to get done. And when it's not done, then we all have to take a deep breath and figure out how we're going to move forward. But like you said, the landscape has changed, and we're doing everything we can to make sure we have the best team in place, the right people in the right seats, based on the parameters that we're dealt with.
You talked about recruiting, Coach, and you guys, especially recently, have recruited at an incredible level in the ever-changing landscape of college football. How much have you had to change the way you not only recruit high school athletes, but kids in the transfer portal, and essentially re-recruiting your own guys on a year-to-year basis as well?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to treat them once they get here like you did during the recruiting process. I think when there's a disconnect between the recruiting process and when they get here, that's when problems can occur. And, hard feelings happen, and, guys feel like, wait a minute now, this is not the same thing that we talked about during recruiting. So there has to be consistency there. There has to be great communication. There has to be follow-up. And so, we really try to do that at a high level, knowing that, it's not always going to be perfect. There's going to be things that happen, but we try to be as transparent as we can. We try to be as honest as we can, give honest feedback, and then push through from there. But knowing that when you come here, like, Ohio State's not for everybody, we want to have guys that want to be the best in the world at what they do and understand the expectations here. If you're coming to be a cornerback at Ohio State, the expectation is you're a first rounder. If you're coming in to be a quarterback here, the expectation is that you're coming to be a Heisman Trophy finalist. And, again, that isn't for everybody. Some people in the recruiting process, they don't go to Ohio State. They have too many guys in that room, too much talent. And I say to them, well, if you believe that, then probably this isn't the right place for you. If you want to be great, if you want to be challenged every day and maximized and have high goals, we'll get you there. And, I think a lot of people are feeling that right now. And recruiting couldn't be any better. I think you're seeing us, really come off of this off season, whether, it was with the 24 class, the guys that we identified in the portal and now in this next class, there's a lot of momentum around the program.
Kind of along the lines of recruiting, does state lines matter anymore? I remember when Jim Tressel got there, he basically put up a wall around Ohio, and he didn't lose hardly anyone from Ohio. He was all Ohio kids. It was a ton of Ohio kids won that 02 title. And now it's such a national recruiting power. Do you even look at in terms of like trying to protect home as much anymore, or is it just nationally just go get the best talent no matter where he's from? Because you guys have made obvious incredible inroads in states that 20 years ago you couldn't touch.
Yeah, I think it's a long conversation, but the first thing you would notice when you walk into our recruiting room is you would see all the Ohio guys are in a different color because they have priority. So all things are equal. We want Ohio guys. They grew up here. They understand what it means to be a Buckeye. They understand the rivalry, and they are the foundation of our program. Always have been and always will be. That being said, there's a lot of Buckeyes that are spread throughout the country. So there's a lot of loyal people in the Southeast. There's a lot of loyal Buckeyes in Texas and throughout the country. So although some of those folks may have moved away, their family roots are still here and they're still very, very strong. And so they understand that as well. And then there's other families that don't know about Ohio State. And when they come to Columbus for the first time, it's just so many of them say, "Man, really, this has surprised me." When I hear about Ohio State, when I hear about Columbus, I wasn't quite prepared for this. They're pleasantly surprised. So to answer your question, the first thing is the foundation will always be Ohio. But when I say Ohio, certainly the state of Ohio is critically important and they have priority. But then also the families from Ohio, like Donovan Jackson's a great example. Like he has lineage in Ohio. I can't tell you how many of our people on our roster, even a guy like Garrett Wilson, when he was in 8th grade, he lived in Dublin, Ohio. So that may be a Texas guy, but he grew up in Dublin. I could go on and on about all the folks that have come here from different parts of the country, but have roots back here in Ohio, and some of those recruits that we're recruiting right now. But we are going to go chase the best talent in the country because we know the expectation.
Coach Dave, you went after this offseason. Y'all had some coaching changes. You dominated the transfer portal. You had a great recruiting class, and you got those guys that was NFL draft eligible to come back. I don't believe in the natty or bust, but some people do. So I need to get you on record. Is this year natty or bust for you? Do you look at it that way?
Well, every year we know what the expectation is. In my press conference we said that. It's win the rivalry game and win every game after that, and that hasn't changed. But I do know this: when I was going into the season, we like to have good players, and I like to, with high expectations, I like to have a great coaching staff and a great group of players. And I think we've addressed a bunch of the things that have gone on. We've tried to enhance the areas that we think have gone well, and the things that we need to do to get over that hump. And so, fired up about this team. But ultimately, it's what matters is what we put on the field and what we earn on the field. No one's going to give us anything. We got a bullseye on our back, and we know that. But that's nothing new. Again, it's been Ohio against the world for a long time before I got here, and it continues to be today.
Awesome. Well, that's Coach Ryan Day. We really appreciate you making a few minutes to join us here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Best of luck in the fall, Coach. And once again, appreciate you hanging out with us for 15 minutes today.
You got it, guys. Thanks. Go
Ryan.
Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Awesome. Well, that was Ryan Day. Great insight. As always, the recruiting landscape has changed so drastically. It is
crazy.
absurd. Jimbo Fisher at A&M used to say, I don't care if you're from Texas, Florida, California. If you could play, I want you on my team. And that's how they recruited. Ohio State's taking that same mantra. And they're getting guys from all over the country now. And he mentioned the 2024 class, which was led by Jeremiah Smith. Well, the 2025 class, which is still developing, they currently have 4 of the top 7 prospects in the country committed. So the recruiting train in Ohio State is not slowing down anytime soon. Earl, you want to give us a read? We'll get back to the Andrew Berry topic.
Yeah, if you missed the latest episode of the Ultimate 216 show, I interviewed Cleveland legend and current Atlanta Dream assistant coach Barbara Turner. Go back and check that out. Dope interview. Let me know what you all think. Yeah, so as we were saying, Andrew Berry was on NFL Network, The Insiders, yesterday, I do believe, or the day before yesterday.
Yep, last night.
Yesterday.
Yep.
And he talked about Deshaun Watson being ahead of schedule, and he also gave some insight to Amari Cooper's contract situation.
All right, let's start with the Deshaun Watson part of that. Andrew Berry told, it was Ian Rappaport, Mark Garafolo, and one other person. I'm drawing a blank on their name right now. But he said if you didn't know Deshaun was hurt last season, just saw him throw this spring, you wouldn't even know he was hurt. Mm-hmm. He said he's ahead of schedule. He took his regularly scheduled rest days where he just did the mimic throws during OTAs and minicamp. Tyvis, are you buying what Andrew Berry's selling, that Deshaun is actually ahead of schedule right now?
I mean, when I watch him throw the clips the little clips that we've seen that they allowed us to see via social media, he looks fine. I mean, he seems to be throwing the ball with some velocity. It doesn't seem like he's got a hitch in his throw. So, I mean, yeah, I anticipate that he'd be ready for week 1. I never thought that he wouldn't be. Like I say, if Baltimore, with it broke or with it messed up, he still had a good game second half of the game. So I figured that with it fixed, it should be better. So I don't think that he has any limitations at the moment. I think the Browns went about this the correct way, giving him those rest days and letting him go through the motions on air. I know a lot of people laughed at it, but I think it pays a lot of dividends to be able to go through your reads and not miss a play, because you can't get those reps physically, but you can still get those mentally and keep your mind sharp. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. It's about the mindset, making sure that your mind is locked into what you have to do on those plays and not really giving them a chance to relax. So I like what they did there. I expect him to be really good this year, and I don't think Andrew Berry's lying about this at all.
Jason?
No, that's a great answer. That's a great answer.
We don't know what the exact rehab plan is, so for him to say he's ahead of schedule, I have no reason not to believe him other than...
Does he look good to you?
That's what I'm saying.
No, I guess
he may be supposed to be throwing every day at this point, and we have no idea. And he may not be able to throw it all yet, and he's ahead of... We just have no idea. So
it's June.
That's why I say you can say he ahead of schedule or not. It doesn't matter. Right now, on certain days that I've seen, it seems like he took the reps that he was supposed to take. If you want to simulate to a game, he would take the reps on Sunday and have the rest of the week off until Wednesday. So it's the same thing.
And he threw a couple passes in the last day of mandatory minicamp.
That was
deeper. Was
deeper.
out there that were deeper, had some nice velocity on it, looked like he was stepping into it. So everything we've seen has looked positive. It's just how are we, us three here, with all due respect to the two of the smartest football people I know, how the hell are we supposed to know what his rehab schedule was to know if he's ahead or behind or right on track with schedule? So yeah. I'll take it at face value. I don't think Andrew Berry has any real reason to hide that. I don't think he would say it if it wasn't true.
I mean, the only lies that we ever heard from AB was that he felt good about the quarterback room and the wide receiver room. That was about the only two lies that we ever heard him say.
Well, speaking of the receiver room, I thought the more interesting tidbit that came out of the interview with the insiders yesterday was about Amari Cooper, who, by the way, it was his 30th birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, Amari. Or 29th to 30th. Oh, we look at how old he turned. 30? 30th birthday, 30. Yeah, turned 30. So happy belated birthday by a day, Amari Cooper. He was asked about it in a typical Andrew Berry fashion, said, it's my policy not to comment on any contract negotiations, but we truly, truly, truly appreciate the contributions Amari's given us. He's a Pro Bowl caliber receiver. We'll see if we can figure it out, but I can't comment on any specifics. Jason, I'm not sure if you were here the day we talked about the Amari Cooper contract situation and extension potential and him holding out. Do you have any sense on where the Browns are coming at this from where Amari's coming at this? I have a theory, but I haven't heard anything definitive.
I don't fault either side of this. If I'm Amari, of course I want a new deal. Coming off a monster year. He knows that there's not much sand left in the hourglass in terms of his career. Like, this is his time to get paid. From the Browns' perspective, I'm not investing big-time money in a guy that I know that the cliff is coming. And, I think they got, the Jack Conklin contract. I know it's a different position, but it's sort of the same thought of, he's getting up there in age. It's a risk, and they sort of got burned by it. And I don't want to make that same mistake again with Amari. So I would not be in a rush to go out and pay Amari. And, everyone says, well, just give him a 1 or 2 year extension. How do you know he's going to take that? How do you know he doesn't want 3 more years? Or when you look at some of the receiver contracts that are being handed out, it's not as easy as just pick up the phone and say, all right, we'll give you 2 years. What if he says no? What if he says, no, I want 3, I want 4?
Well, my theory, Tyvis, and I want to hear your thoughts
4 total, not 4 more.
Yeah. My theory on this is it's not the money they can't agree on, it's the length. And I feel like the Browns, based off a couple of the moves they've made, are trying to keep as much flexibility as possible in 2026, so not for next season, but for 2 seasons, in case they have to extend Deshaun Watson. Not in case, that's not the right word. In case they decide to extend Deshaun Watson because he's played up to the level that they hoped they were getting when they traded for him. And if that's the case, then I can understand why you don't want to have money tied up to what would be a 32-year-old receiver at that point who, based off historical records and track records, would be on the decline. There's always the exception, but you would assume in 2 years Amari will be past his peak. So I'm guessing the Browns are coming to the negotiating table saying, Amari, we'll give you a little raise this year, we'll give you next year guaranteed, but 2026, you're on your own. And I'm not sure if Amari, to Jason's point, is willing just to take a one-year extension because he might be thinking, I play well again this year, hit the open market in 2025, and I'm going to get another 2-3 year deal on top of that for more money. So I think it's more of a length issue than it is a financial and money issue between these two sides.
I think you might be right on that one. You definitely want as much money as you can. You want like the Von Miller contract. The Von Miller contract is terrible right now to Buffalo, but you want something like that where you get extended years with knowing that you're protected, and financially. I think that this situation is one of those they gonna try to call each other's bluff. I think that's kind of where this relationship is headed to. The Browns are gonna look at this season and say, you know what? We got Jerry Jeudy, we got Amari, we got Elijah Moore. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go out there, we're gonna see what this offense looks like. If Jerry Jeudy takes off, we can say, Amari, we appreciate everything that you've done. You've been a professional Brown. You've gotten back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. You've done so much for this franchise to help elevate it. We appreciate your services, but we're looking to move younger. We got to get this money tied up into some of these younger guys. So we're going to try to draft us a wide receiver. It won't be quite the caliber of Amari Cooper, but you get the point. We got to save some money. Amari Cooper's going to look at this season like I got to absolutely go insane this season, because if I go insane this season, it's going to put the pressure on the Cleveland Browns to come holler at me around mid-season trying to extend me for a little bit more money and maybe give me an extra year that I want. Maybe instead of 2 years, they give me 3. Or if they don't want to do that at all, I still got to ball anyways because I need the next team to look at this. So it's really a lot of pressure on Amari Cooper this season. And over for the past couple of seasons, he's missed, a couple of games a year with some type of nagging injuries and stuff like that.
Nothing serious, but...
Yeah, it wasn't serious, but it did affect him enough that he kind of took a step off of his speed a little bit. So I think that's kind of where the Browns is like, dude, we can see that, when you get older, obviously the body doesn't recover the same. Mm-hmm. And we can see that it does affect you at some point in these games. So I can see why the Browns want to go younger at the wide receiver position. But until you got that definitive answer that you got 2 good wide receivers, you ain't got no choice but to try to keep Cooper around because you know at least what you're getting out of Amari Cooper.
I did a hit this morning on the morning show with Ken and Anthony. And in the very end, they said, who's got the leverage? And it was interesting. I thought the Browns had leverage. I'm curious to hear from a former player.
I agree with that, by the way. Slight.
Yeah.
Slight.
Like Amari's leverage is look at the rest of the receiver.
Yeah.
What are you going to do if I'm not here?
Exactly.
So that's where his leverage play. Mm-hmm. But the NFL is such a different animal because the contracts aren't guaranteed. I feel like in any situation, the team has the leverage until proven otherwise. As a player,
in this situation, I would say that they do because at the end of the day, they can still draft somebody young.
Yeah.
The thing about wide receivers is college football has done such a good job of churning them out every year. Like it's multiple good wide receivers in each draft every year.
But the Browns can't seem to find them.
Yeah, because we wasn't picking to the 3rd, but we got a first next year. Yeah, so if they can secure that left tackle spot, then they can they can use that draft pick to get a first-round talent at wide receiver. And I think that could possibly be the threat right there, where it's like, if the wide receivers are killing it and it's a bunch of wide receivers, they'd feel comfortable moving off of Amari because they feel like they can re-get another one that could be, I won't say as good, but could potentially be as good as Amari Cooper.
Yeah, you're not going to draft a guy who immediately steps
No, he ain't. No.
Now, there's the rare exceptions. There's the Justin Jefferson who comes in and has like 1,200 yards as a rookie, and you trade away Stephon Diggs and you get Jefferson and it's a wash. Mm-hmm. But you can't bank on that happening with the draft pick that you would hope the Browns are taking next season in the 25 to 32 range.
Yeah.
Like, that's a high ask from a rookie. To your point, Jason, on who is the leverage, I do think it's slightly in the Browns' favor. Le'Veon Bell's the only guy we've really seen, like, call a team's bluff and say, I'm just not coming in.
Yeah.
And look at how the rest of his career panned out. He did get his money, but he was never the same player again. Now, he was younger than Amari Cooper when he did that. I'm not saying Amari would have the same complete drop-off, and I don't think Amari would sit out the entire season.
Can't.
I feel like he's too
at
far
his
in
age,
career
he cannot.
to do that,
Yeah.
so I feel like the Browns do have a slight advantage in the leverage battle, but it's certainly not 80-20. It's like 55-45 because the Browns do need his presence in the receiving room, especially with knowing how much is on the line this year for so many different guys.
Here's where the leverage flips for him. And I have this is total hypothetical, which I hate doing. I hate doing hypothetical, but I'll play along for this one. Let's say Amari holds out to start the year. And
he ain't going to play in the game one.
Yes, like I have no knowledge that he would actually do this. But let's say he holds out for training camp, waiting for a new contract, misses the preseason, misses week 1 against Dallas.
And Judy gets hurt.
And they just don't look good.
Or they look terrible.
And Deshaun is 14 of 31 for 180 yards, 2 picks. Judy can't get open, and the offense looks like trash. You think Andrew Berry might pick up the phone and call Amari at that point?
Yeah.
But do you wait that, like, now you're missing checks? Yeah. Like, do you want to wait?
You're going to make that check back up, though.
Well, yes, but, like, that's where if he really wants to dig in his heels, that's how long, in my opinion, that's how long it would take for him to create leverage over the Browns.
Well, interesting.
Now, the flip side of that, if Deshaun's 26 of 30 against Dallas for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns and he's not out there.
But the interesting thing is he missed all the camp or spring ball, right? OTAs? Amari,
yeah.
And he missed mandatory minicamp?
This year, yeah.
So this is the interesting thing. This is the funniest part about all this. So remember about a month when they made the Judy trade, and I got on here and talked about it. They would have got a kid from Alabama, kid from South Florida, so they could say
Judy could then study under Amari, who's his hero.
Amari ain't there for him to study under. So he might be the same as he looked in Denver. So now it's like maybe he's like, you know what? I love you, Judy. I really do, but this is a business deal.
It's business.
Like I can't give you the sauce of how to be successful and then just let you take my spot without me getting down. So that could be the leverage that he's playing. Like I'm not about to coach up no young dude to take my spot. That makes no sense.
I don't blame Amari one bit in this. If you're Amari and you just busted your ass for this team, and they just trade for a guy who has underachieved,
did he
extend him right away?
Did he break the record for most yards in the game against Houston?
Yeah.
I don't.
Like, how can you not pay him? How can you not?
How can you not pay him? Because he's 30 years old. That's how you can not pay him.
He just came off of a good year where he just broke the record.
That doesn't mean he's going to be good 2 years from now.
I agree with you.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I agree.
There is no bad guy in this.
No.
I don't think. There's nobody in the wrong here.
This
is just the business of football.
And the difference, and I'm not sure you were here the day we talked about it, and then we'll move on to the Guardians in 1 sec, Earl, but if Amari signed a contract now, he's negotiating against Jalen Waddle, or not, he's negotiating the same ballpark as Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins. He's not in the Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown dollar worth, but he's in the Devonta Smith, that range. If he does not have a great season and then tries negotiating next offseason, he's working off the Adam Thielen 3 for $25 contract. And if you're Amari, you're looking at $25 million a year, or you're looking at $25 million total for 3 years, give or take. And he's better than Adam Thielen. But what's up, Mark?
So when I talked about this last week, I proposed 2 years. I think it was $52 million. What y'all think about that?
A bump this year, and then for next year. So 1 year. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I would do the money. I'm just not sure Amari would take a 1 year extension. I think that's the disconnect here. If the Browns could get him under contract for this year and next guaranteed, I think they'd sign the deal today. I think Amari wants an extra 2-3 years after that.
I think the interesting thing about this one is, you know, the Browns typically take care of the people that feel like has done something for their friend. Like Nick Chubb. They took care of Nick Chubb. So they would think in their mind the way they would take care of Amari would be this year, next year. But beyond that, like, they don't want to really move off of that. I'm interested to see.
It'll be interesting.
It will be interesting because I can see it both ways. I see it both ways, and I guess that's the good part of being out of it now, that you can see. I can see both sides of where they coming from.
This is
obviously I'm leaning more towards Amari Cooper because I'm a former athlete.
Sure. Yeah.
I got another question.
But real quick, this is Amari's last chance to get paid.
Yeah.
This is
Which is why he wants
So are
to
you
get
going to
paid.
take a 1 year? You're going to take a 1 year deal on top of what you're at now? Just one more year?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Totally hypothetical, and I asked this on X this morning. Hypothetically speaking, do you attempt to trade, say you trade Amari Cooper for Brandon Ayuk and pay Brandon Ayuk, or do you keep Amari and just pay Amari?
Ayuk's better than Amari and younger.
I was about to say you would trade that.
You don't think it's the easiest thing you've ever thought
If
about.
if you believe in Ayuk and you got the funds to pay him, you would definitely trade him because now you got Judy and Ayuk. You got essentially your 2 wide receivers. Now you can take that first round pick and worry about your left tackle.
Yeah, I think that's pretty locked up. What would you do real quick, Earl, then we'll talk guards? Would you keep Hooper?
I would trade for Ayuk and pay Brandon Ayuk just for the simple fact he's younger.
Yeah.
I think Amari's had clearly a better career, but I think his potential says he can probably match or surpass the production of Amari Cooper going forward. So
I think Ayuk was an All-Pro last. Oh, you are hurting. Holy hell.
I'm fine.
Ayuk was an All-Pro last year. I don't think Cooper's ever been an All-Pro in his career, so it's close. But Ayuk's younger and has definitely a higher ceiling at this point of their careers. Let's talk a little Guardians, Earl. Cleveland welcomes the Seattle Mariners to town to start their homestand. It is Tristan McKenzie versus Bryce Miller tonight on the bump. 2 first-place teams. Jason, what are you looking forward to most in this series from the Guardians and the Mariners?
This is a big stretch. The next 12 or so games, really the end of the month, they're going to be tested. It's the Mariners. It's
the Orioles.
There it is. Yeah, the Jays, the Royals. So this is a good little stretch for them. This Mariners series, the Cleveland and Seattle develop pitching like hardly anyone else, and I'd put Tampa in there as well. So I expect to see some good pitching battles this week. Good to have them back home. They've been out on the road for a little while. Bryce Miller is another one of those young, up-and-coming pitchers. The Mariners have a ton of them. You've probably never heard of him, but he's really good.
You're going to see him in a sec, by the way. I got a little special something for you guys on Bryce Miller before we get to Coach Otis.
All right. McKenzie, obviously, we know what he is this year. He's managed to duck, dodge, dive, and dodge for the most part. But when he misses, he gets hit hard.
Yeah, he do.
It's just you hold your breath every time he's out there right now. But it should be a fun battle. Obviously, Stephen Vogt against his former team.
For tonight, that McKenzie thing is the one that I want to see the most because when they hit his ball, it's probably a home run. But if they miss, it's a strikeout.
If he misses his spot,
it's incredible to see. I think Seattle is it's a good team. I think that they have, like everybody in baseball, they have moments where they're not as good, and then it's like this. But I think that the Guardians coming off of this loss to the Blue Jays, I'll be interested because Jose should be back today, right? He's had his kid.
I don't know if he's back. They haven't put the lineup out yet, but he left for paternity leave.
I thought they said he'd be back for this series.
Well, we'll see when the.
I guess we will see. Well, hopefully
it's like 3 days. Usually it's like 3 days.
Hopefully Jose is back for today. It'd be interesting to see how he comes back after being off or missing the last couple of games. But for me, it's about the hitting. If the pitching for Seattle is supposed to be really that good, then we got to start. This is a game where we can build our confidence on hitting and continue that home run stretch. I think everybody's been hitting the ball pretty well. Even when they're down, they still do a great job of rallying. Hopefully that's not the case where they have to rally back against the Mariners. But I love the way this team is playing right now. And hopefully Jose is out there to knock one over the fence. I want to see Josh Naylor get out of his slump, too, because you cost me a couple of days ago. You owe down.
The Mariners lineup it's okay. It's not great. It's okay. Their starting pitching has been very good this season, and with Stephen Kwan on his quest for 400, he's at 398 now. I'm really curious to see how the Seattle staff in particular.
Let you tell Jay that.
We talked about it yesterday for a while. Yeah, we're just curious to see how.
Man, I wish I was on yesterday.
He's not there yet. He's at 398, but he's inching his way closer and closer, and he's the most unique hitter in all of baseball right now. What he does from an offensive standpoint is unmatched by anyone in baseball. No one else is even hitting 330 in baseball. He's hitting 398. But I'm curious to see how Seattle, who has a unique approach to attacking hitters from an entire philosophical standpoint, how they try to attack Stephen Kwan, especially on the second and third times through the lineup. All their pitchers, Bryce Miller, who's going tonight, who we'll talk about in a sec, he's been phenomenal in 3 of his last 4 starts. 2 of those last 4, he's gone 6 or more, no earned runs allowed, 8 strikeouts or more. In one of those, he went 6, allowed 2 runs, had 9 strikeouts, and then he got absolutely destroyed by the Royals. Gave up 7 runs in 5 innings. So he's been consistent, but he can be hit if needed. And I'm just curious to see how these guys, who all have whips that are right around 1, how they attack a guy like Stephen Kwan, because they throw strikes. They're all strikeout-laden pitchers. Stephen Kwan doesn't strike out ever. So I'm really interested to see how that battle unfolds over the next 3 games.
If he gets to 400, Jay owes me an apology.
He does.
At 400 at any point?
No,
Yeah, the
finish
season.
the season. Finish the season.
Jay said he would shave his head if he hits 400 for the season.
He did say
Yeah.
that.
So
Wow.
we are all.
He did say that.
Not that we had any reason
I'm
to root
rooting for
against
that
it. We all are now rooting heavily
rooting for
for
that.
it.
I want to right
it would
here
be
live
epic.
on air. I want to see this man shave
It would
his head.
be. It would be epic. So I mentioned Bryce Miller a second ago. He's pitching tonight for the Guardians. He went to A&M, and right before COVID happened at A&M, I started an Aggie Athlete Challenge series where I would challenge an Aggie athlete to their sport.
No, you did what I did.
Yeah, I did it before. I did 4 years before you did. He stole my idea. And then COVID happened and it got washed out. But I tried to hit Bryce Miller. And the goal was I had 10 pitches. Could I put 1 in play? It's a little 2-minute thing. You want to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Steve,
kid.
can play it back. This is me versus Bryce Miller back from 2019.
Wait, what's your baseball background?
I played in high school.
Okay.
I wasn't very good,
Okay.
but I played in high school. This is 2019 me versus Bryce Miller, who's facing the Guardians lineup tonight, and hopefully they fare a little better than I did. The Texas A&M pitching staff was historically filthy in 2019. As a team, the Aggies recorded 673 strikeouts. That's a new school record. So for our second Aggie Athlete Challenge, I'm taking on Bryce Miller.
Bryce throws an awful lot of strikes, very athletic. He's going to be anywhere from 92 to 96 mile an hour. Every now and then he'll lose a little control. He'll miss arm side high, which means right at the right-handed hitter's head, so make sure you're really safe in that respect.
Miller rung up 57 batters in just 43 innings of work last year. My goal today, simply put the ball in fair territory. Do you think I have any shot at hitting your fastball?
I mean, you said you played baseball in high school, so I think you got a chance.
I warmed up with some soft toss and yeah, I was hitting dingers left and right. What's up, Bryce? You ready for that? If I hit a home run, can I get a scholarship?
No doubt. We're going to put you in the lineup. We'll write you in. If you run one out of the park today, you're our guy. We're going to find a way to get you eligible.
So while you watch me try and take Miller deep, enjoy the play-by-play commentary from Aggie infielder Bryce Blom.
Hey, compete with 2 right here.
How'd that look?
A little bit earlier. Almost got it. Hey, it's not a sword, by the way. Don't chop at it.
That was my pitch, though. That felt good.
Hey, you need to start your swing before the ball's in the glove.
That was it.
That was close.
That was it.
Even earlier.
Shoot.
Hey, start your swing earlier than you ever thought possible. The goal is to hit the ball.
Oh, that was it. Bryce, keep going right there. Right there.
Throw him a slider. See if you can hit the slider. Hey, we're letting you know a slider is coming right here. About a foot away.
One last pitch. Dig it in. I'm about to crush this.
There you go.
Not easy. I'm 0 for 2 in challenges now, but next week I'll probably be 0 for 3. We'll see y'all after the break. And Justin, you couldn't have done any better, let's be honest. Full disclosure, the one I did foul tip at the end, he lobbed in 60 miles an hour. So the answer was no, I couldn't hit him, so hopefully the Guardians have a much better effort tonight. And Bryce, I like you, he's my guy. We still keep in touch. I hope you get absolutely smoked tonight.
You need to get in the car and come with me to Biosport in Westlake. That swing is not.
See,
Basketball player.
that's unfortunate, you know. I feel like I could have. I feel like I
You would
would
have hit him over. You would have taken him deep.
Oh, clearly. Yeah,
Thompson would have had 10 for 10 with
By
7
the way,
runs.
Listen, he put a scholarship on the line. It ain't even about the challenge no more. This is money on the
Well,
wood.
I have no eligibility left.
That looked like a Easton bat from 1987.
I need the Ohio
What were you
State coach to
swinging?
do that to me.
A&M bat. That's what they gave me.
Well, and I'm sure it was a good bat. It did not look like a bat.
I need if
recognized.
Ohio State's coach says that to me, I say right, let's go right now.
That's right, yeah.
I look like Mark McGuire, and I take him right over. I don't know who he is, but I take you right over the fence.
He's pitching tonight for the Mariners.
No. I'm talking about Ohio State's pitcher.
Oh.
I'll take him right for a scholarship to play baseball. It's gone. Because Jay Crawford is on my list. And anytime, Jay, whenever you, after take your meds and, you do your thing, you ice up your elbow, you get you some icy hot on there.
With your shaved head.
With
a shaved head.
With your shaved head. You go right over the fence, my brother. And I heard y'all talking about me yesterday. G talking about some, Tyvus is crazy. You talking about he can hit a baseball. Listen, I'm just telling you right now. It's gifted. It's nothing that I can't do.
Are we doing the UCSS Channel 3 softball game. Are we going to do that?
Yeah, Bull's trying to and I'm trying to choose my words carefully here.
Yeah.
Bull was so upset about how the teams were split last season, which, by the way, Stephanie, who does a great job upstairs,
They look fine to me.
Of
doesn't
course, you
know-
was on the winning team. What you?
doesn't know. It's not like she was scouting. You have to submit a scouting report of how much experience you have playing softball. The teams. He was so upset that now he's trying to create a fantasy draft for this
my
softball game, so he can help
gosh.
pick his own team. So yes, it will happen. I don't know when it's gonna. When it happened last year, sometime in August. Yeah.
It was August.
So
See, that's a
we'll find out
busy
when it
time
happens.
for
But
me.
But we got to get Tyrus up for this game
Such a busy time.
so that he and Jay can go one-on-one after the game, before or after the game.
well, no, we're gonna do once the Pan Am games are done. Jay's gonna pitch to all of us. We're all gonna get 1 at bat versus Jay, or 10 pitches versus Jay,
All right.
and hit. So first pitch tonight is 6:40.
He gonna be sick.
Last time Mackenzie pitched, his stat line looked good, but those were the 2 hard hit balls against Cincinnati that Tyler Freeman robbed in center field. He was 2 plays away from being severely injured. And I'm getting a phone call from Coach Otis right now, Earl. So you want to do a read, Steve? Kill my mic and let me talk to Coach Otis for a sec. What's up, Coach?
Great TV.
Coach? Earl, do your read.
All right, summertime's mean baseball, the NBA Finals, and more, and you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any new winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out the park. Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book.
Keep reading.
Perfect.
Keep reading. Read it again, Earl. Read it again, Earl.
Tyvus, make sure you say that parlay that you put in for the night.
Oh, I got you.
He the hottest man in
I
UCSS
got
right
you.
now. Man, what do you do? 4 out of your last 6 parlays or something like that?
Man,
Hey,
look,
so that was Coach Otis. He just finished throwing with Jameis. Literally was walking off the field. Jameis said hi in the background, so now Jameis officially been a guest on UCSS, I guess. He's walking into his house. It'll be on in 5 minutes. So we will have Coach Otis here in a sec.
yeah,
Is
I'm-
Jameis going to join him?
I hope so.
I missed,
hope
He's
so.
there.
I missed mine last night, Earl, by one game.
Should have bet more.
Yeah, I should have, but it didn't matter. You need to stop saying that to me too.
Are you up or down in all your $5 bets? Are you up or down? 'Cause
Oh,
you
I
only-
gotta be up by
Yeah.
now. Okay, I gotta be up. I'm only 5. I
but
used to
if
be
you-
10. Now I'm just doing 5s.
That'd be hard for me to stay. I need to bet more than that. I can't.
See, but when you do so many games, like I'm doing 6, 7 legs.
Yeah.
Like 10 would probably get you like $600. But I'd be like, you know what? This is just for fun. $5. And bam,
I'm a
it just
degenerate.
hit.
I can't get excited over a $5 bet.
Well, while we're waiting on Coach Otis, let me do a little tease of what's coming up in the next few days. After today's UCSS, Jason and I are going to tape an Ultimate Cavs show,
Yes.
which is going to air tomorrow at 11 o'clock because we don't have a full UCSS show in honor of Juneteenth. But we'll still have content for you guys if the Cavs make a coaching hire between after we tape and then tomorrow morning. We'll hop back in. We'll do another breaking stream. But we're going to record a Ultimate Cavs show a little longer than usual in studio that'll air tomorrow. Earl's back with a 216 show at some point. Earl, you going to do it this week? Or I know you got to fly out, so maybe not this week.
I'll get something recorded.
He'll do
I'll figure out
something.
what.
G's got an Ultimate Brown show coming up. So we'll have content all day tomorrow. It's just not your typical UCSS
Is
show.
Jay Crawford barbecuing tomorrow? Since he fought for his newfound 3% blackness.
For Juneteenth.
Yeah, for June.
3%.
He said he did that.
said he was like 2
He
or
did like an
3%.
Ancestry.com or a 23andMe thing, and it came back that I'm staying out of this one. Look at me. I have no.
He said he's like 2 or 3% black.
I got to do that now.
And I said, so that means Juneteenth party at your house, right?
On a yacht. On a yacht. Well, wait for Coach. Can we go back to something that Ryan Day said a second ago, or when he was on? He talked about the recruiting landscape and the talent, Tyvus, and you mentioned the natty or bust question at the end.
Mm-hmm.
How much pressure do you think he's actually feeling going into this season? Like, is it palpable amounts, or is
I
it all
would think
hearsay?
that he feels pressure every single minute of
Yes.
the day
Yes.
because I told you it's just so many different things. Your they went all out. Okay, let's start from the top. You got a new AD who don't have no ties to you, so whether you're not his guy anyway. So if you don't do well, he can move on and get the guy that he wants in there. That's first.
And we saw Ross Bjork and A&M get rid of Jimbo Fisher. To
paid him $72 million and said, "Here, have a nice day." So that's not an option. On top of that, everybody, collectives, boosters, donors, everybody has went out and essentially got you all the top transfer portal kids that you wanted. So you got those, you got the roster, you got people to come back for another year, give up the NFL for a year to come back for another season. So you got that veteran leadership that he mentioned on there. And on top of that, the guy that is the heavy favorite to replace you decided not to take a job and decided to just be an analyst. And, oh, by the way, he's 2 hours away.
You know, Ryan said, and this isn't groundbreaking, but coaches say this all the time, not everyone can play at Ohio State. Not everyone is built for Ohio State. You don't want necessarily that competition or that pressure that comes with that. The same goes with coaches. Like, not everyone can handle coaching at Ohio State. That's probably unfair for me to name someone, but the first name that came to mind was Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. Like, Kirk could have left 150 times over to go to the NFL to take a bigger job. And Kirk was like, you know what? I got job stability here. I got security. I can go 7-5 every year, 8-4, 7-6, 8-4, 9-3, make a couple bowl games, and I'm good for 20, 25 years. Man, I'm good with that life. And I'm not saying that as a disparaging thing. Mike, I told you on the phone a couple weeks ago, I could have gone higher in my career. I don't work that hard.
Like, I can attest those words.
Why would you say that?
Because, like, to be on the level of, like,
I would have worked that hard.
But, like, the newsbreakers at the top of my profession are on their phone 18 hours a day. I don't want to live that life. I want to go play with my kids. So I'm good doing I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Like, I've made it to a pretty good level. I'm good here. Like, I'll stay here for as long until I get thrown out. Call me Kirk Ferentz. I'm good with that. Like, Kirk
Ferentz still has a job.
Yes.
So,
and he's made an incredible living for himself.
He just fired his son.
His job is going to come to an end because...
Okay, he's been there for 25 years.
But it's coming to... Now that it's up to 12 teams now, and it's no East-West in the Big Ten no more. See, he was going to the Big Ten championship out of the West because that was the thing. Now they're just taking the top two teams, so he might not see the Big Ten championship for... ever. So at some point, they're going to be like, you ain't getting into the CFP and we ain't going to the Big Ten championship. We got to move on.
Okay, he's made a lot of money being mediocre at Iowa.
Yeah.
A lot of money. And he's had a good life.
Put his son on and everything.
He kept his kids in one place. He didn't have to drag his kids all over the country. Like, there's something to be said for that. And Ryan Day's at the other end of that, where he's in the pressure cooker. You are 100% right. There is pressure on you every minute of the day. And you can be fired. He can be fired at the end of the year. If things don't go right this year, he's probably out. The thing about Kyle McCord is insane to me. He lost one game, and he's out. One game.
Well,
that's it.
No, think
about that.
You're right, though. No, Jason's 100% right. And there's other schools, and it's not just Ohio State. Ohio State's a good example of it, but the expectations are so high that if you don't deliver at the highest of levels year in and year out, and that's what makes what Nick Saban did at Alabama for 2 decades as incredible as what it was. A bad season for Bama was 2 losses. The best season in A&M history. 2 losses. That's what I'm saying.
We lost twice?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're in that elite class where they have raised the bar to such a standard that just maintaining said standard is a franchise program-altering season for 97% of college football.
I do want to be on record by saying I do believe that Ohio State. I don't think he gets fired after this year. I think they make it to the national championship, whether they win it or not. I think him making it there is good enough.
Yes.
I do think they beat the team up north. I do think they win the Big Ten, and I do think they make it to the national championship. So I don't think he's going to get fired after this season. I do believe that he is a really good coach there. I just think that he's fallen into some unfortunate situations. The 2019 loss to Clemson, like that's. You get a fumble that got overturned, and then you get a bad targeting call against Clemson. Like, that's just unfortunate. Then the Georgia game,
that's crazy.
The missed targeting on Marvin, and he's out of the game for the rest of the game, and then your defense kind of just falls to shambles. It's just unfortunate situations that's happened. 2020 against Alabama, that was just
We can forget about that.
Alabama was just on another level
Yes.
at that time.
And that happens.
So that's just part of it. But I just think that he's fallen into some unfortunate situations to where all he needs to me is if he gets that one, I think he just got to get over that hump one time, and I think it could be a domino effect for him. He could do the same thing Kirby Smart is doing because he's recruiting that way and he's developing that way. He just got to get over that hump.
And if whoever the quarterback is losing to Michigan, he's out.
It's a wrap.
You got one
wrap.
shot, you're out.
That's the craziest
On to the
part
next.
of this whole roster construction, especially the last 2 years in specific for Ohio State. Elite running back talent this year in particular. Henderson and Judkins might be 2 of the 3 best running backs in college football. The receiver room's loaded. It was even more loaded last year. Defense, Dave Brew is at 15 draftable guys. The quarterback's the question. In college football, if you have the quarterback, like LSU last year, they had Jaden Daniels. Mm-hmm. No, they had talent elsewhere. I'm not saying just
both
Daniels,
receivers.
But I'm saying they had talent. But just in general, you have the quarterback, you can kind of get away with everything else. Mm-hmm. This is the one, and this is a talented room. Don't get me wrong. But none of those guys are preseason Heisman, preseason first-team All-American caliber guys. Now, they could end up being that.
I was say you just don't know because, I mean, Will Howard with Kansas State, like that's just Kansas State and Ohio State, that's 2 different leagues. Like that's 2 totally different talent pools.
That's my point.
Devin Brown, you don't have no tape on him because he played every now and again, and then when he had his moment to be the starter, he got hurt. So you just don't know.
I got a question.
What's up, bro?
And I guess this is for anybody, but Tyvis, you would probably know more than us. A couple years ago, did Ohio State over-recruit at the quarterback position? And that's partially why we're in the situation we're in now. Because we've seen a lot of guys that was 5-star guys ended up, transferring elsewhere because they didn't have an opportunity to play. And some of those guys are still in college, and now we're sitting here with uncertainty at the quarterback position.
The reason that the Buckeyes are in this position that they're in is only one name that has put them in this. And his name is Quinn Ewers. He transferred out of Ohio State, and it messed up everything. It really did. It made guys have to be – because it would have been, CJ – it would have been C.J. Stroud. Then it would be Quinn Ewers right now taking over the Rams from last year. And when he transferred away, you end up getting Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, but – I don't think they was quite the Mac. They didn't have the same upside as Quinn did. Quinn obviously was like the number 1 quarterback in the class, I think, or something like that.
He's the number 1 quarterback recruit ever.
Yeah, he was like the highest recruit in Ohio State history or something like that. It was ridiculous. And when he left, you had to scramble to try to fill that void, and that's why you ended up with what you ended up with. So I think that's the reason why Ohio State's in the situation that they're currently in now.
And it also feels like there's no such thing as building a program anymore. At least not like it's you win every
year to year.
And there's no such thing as starting a sophomore quarterback and giving him 3 years. Like
no,
it's year.
You got like 2. You got 2 at best.
Yeah, it's crazy. You landing a plane over there or
I'm trying
what?
to kill my mic. Coach Otis has called me back.
This is hilarious.
What's up, Coach?
You got to read, Earl. Read the FanDuel read. Read the FanDuel read.
But just more to that conversation, I was just thinking about that. Like, man, if we still had Quinn Ewers, this wouldn't even be a thing.
No, not at all. But
and from his standpoint, there is no such thing as waiting anymore for a guy like.
Well, I think for him, he did the smart thing. He wanted to – NIL was new. He wasn't going to get it in high school. So he was like, well, I'm going to just go ahead and reclassify myself and go to college early. I'm going to learn under Ryan Day, who's one of the best quarterback minds in college football for a year. And then I'm going to transfer back to Texas where I'm from and take over from there. He's smart for what he did. And now he's looking at potentially a first-round pick next year. So, yeah. I ain't mad at him for what he did, but he definitely left a hole in Ohio State's quarterback room for sure.
Yeah.
So update on Coach Otis. He's trying to get in. He's having tech issues, but I just sent him another link to try. It worked this morning when we tested it, so hopefully that'll get him to pop right in.
We'll talk about Jaylen Brown leading the Boston Celtics to an NBA championship.
Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I just sent him another link, so if you see him pop up on line 3, Coach Otis should be on line 3 here in a sec. But yeah, the Celtics are your NBA champions. It was a boring series.
It was a terribly boring
series.
And it feels like
the
drama gets more attention than the actual games now.
You know what I'm amazed at? Is that Kyrie Irving's performance in these finals. Like
He was bad.
You talk about a guy. First of all, he's my second favorite player in the NBA. But you talk about a guy who has the experience. He has more experience than all because he actually has won the thing. And to show up and do what he did, like,
didn't have a good series.
It's really something with him in Boston, playing in Boston. Like, he really cannot play in Boston. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, he just wasn't good enough.
He had 15 points in the closeout game.
He had a very good game 3.
And that was it.
Game 4.
Well, they blew him out.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
In all 3 games in Boston, he was essentially a non-factor.
That's amazing to me.
Here's what I took from this series. It was not a good series. It wasn't. It was a very meh postseason in general. Normally, the NBA postseason.
The Timberwolves and the Nuggets probably was the best.
But even that series, only Game 7 was even close. The other 6 games are all blowouts.
For everyone who wanted parity in the NBA, there you go. This is what you get when you do everything you can. No, I'm serious. When you do everything you can to disassemble super teams, and you're trying, and this new CBA is going to make it really impossible almost to build these super teams and put all these stars on one team. Okay, well then this is what you get. You get parity, and you get everybody's got a chance to win, and that's part of it is great. But the theatrics and the drama of tremendous talents going against each other, and like teams loaded with stars playing against teams loaded with stars, that's probably over as well.
You don't think the T-Wolves versus the Celtics would have been better?
No. I mean, Boston was my pick from the start.
Boston. They
were the best team all year.
Once they got Drew and Kristaps, it was done.
And I didn't know if that made them better, and I was so wrong on that. It made them significantly better.
When they got Drew, I was like, it's done. It's done.
But the path that they took, I got so mad watching that team play against the Cavs. Like
the Celtics?
Yeah, it's an underwhelming team to watch them play. It really is. You don't. At no point did I walk away thinking this team is dominating. This team is one of the best ever. Like, and
you talking about the Celtics?
Yeah, like you looked at them and you're like, man, they should be better than this, and they won the championship.
It's because they cruise. Like
they play with their food more than any good team.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Until they got pressed, they didn't really give a crap. Indiana in Game 1 had their best chance to. Earl, I just got a text. He says he's in.
I felt like a Kobe or LeBron. They would have got that. They'd have found a way to win that one.
To beat Boston?
Yeah.
I mean? But again, like, I think that era is over in terms of.
Well, that's boring.
This is what you wanted. This is what, and it's good for the Cavs, and it's good for Oklahoma City, and it's good for small market teams in a way. Although the Cavs, Dan would spend like a big market team, so it may actually ultimately hurt them a little bit in the end. But when you want parity and you want equal playing field, and you want everybody to have a chance, that's a good thing. But the flip side of that is sometimes it's a pretty boring postseason, and that's what we saw between the injuries, between just the disbursement of talent, and it's not going away. It's going to continue to be. Now the NFL has thrived on that. For years, the NFL has thrived on parity, on anyone can win, and the playoffs are tremendous to watch. Now we'll see if the NBA can get there.
All right, I think we got him. Finally, Coach Otis, thank you fighting through the technical difficulties, but there he is. Coach Otis, he works with Jameis Winston. He just finished wrapping up a throwing session with Jameis. So, Coach, I got to start with that. How did Jameis's arm look today?
And he's on fire. We getting ready to play. This is what we do. This is what we do for a living. So he train, I play. So I mean, he play, I train. Let me rephrase that. But yeah, what we do for a living. So we just getting ready to get in camp and get the Cleveland faithful something to see.
You rocking his merch right there, that shirt?
Eat a dub, baby.
Oh, always, man. We've been rocking together a lot of years. So he is I and I am him.
How did this relationship start between you two?
I started training him at age 13. All the way into leading up into his freshman year in the high school, and been with him ever since. We hadn't missed a beat since that time. So went all the way through high school before he even had an offer. I was there from the early conception to now.
Why was Cleveland a good fit for him? I'd imagine he could go to another team and start right away. So why is Cleveland a good fit for him?
Man, I just feel like Jameis is a person that's very opportunistic. So he wants to be in the best opportunity. It's never been just about money. It's never been just about a starting role. Is more about, at this point, situations, opportunity, and I feel like the whole Cleveland organization, when he looked into the free agency market, this team was headed in the right direction. And the opportunity to work with Deshaun, to work with the offensive staff, Coach Stefanski, the GM, all these people, I think it was a collab. I think it was a holistic decision.
And we did a bad job introducing Coach Otis, by the way. Coach Otis played in the NFL for a few years. He had 2 career sacks, 31 tackles, and INT, so he clearly knows the ins and outs of football. And, Coach, now you're working with modern-day fitness and Jameis and a bunch of other athletes. And you guys do some unique training drills. And I wanted to kind of hammer down and ask, where the inspiration for some of these, I'll call them unconventional but clearly effective because they're working, where's the inspiration and the design for some of these unconventional training methods come from that have become an internet sensation with Jameis?
Well, first of all, I want to say this now because I did kind of hear some of the banter and the gestures that were made early on when Jameis first signed about some of the stuff we do, and we can take it, but I want to say this: we want everybody to know who listens is that Jameis is a funny guy. I can be a funny guy, but we're not a joke. Meaning, everything we do is well thought out, very systematic. We've been at this for a long time. And again, I've been with him since he was 13 years old. So a lot of these drills you see, we perfected a lot of them and been doing them for years. And if you go back and you take some of the internet narratives out of it, you'll be able to see that a lot of stuff we're doing actually applies directly to the game. It's a real marriage because I was a defensive lineman and Jameis is a quarterback, and so we do a lot of things he do from a pocket standpoint. I have been a part of helping him put these drills together, and over the years, and like I say, from number 1 player in high school to a Heisman Trophy to number 1 draft pick, I think we've done pretty well with these drills. So. Regardless of what the internet may feel sometime, I think if you go back, and we starting to get calls from other people, pros, college people who want us to implement some of these drills. So it's just kind of funny to watch how the narrative rolls.
Coach, when at what age did you realize that Jameis was special? You say you've been working with him since he was 13. At what age did you realize like this kid can go on to being a really good player in the NFL one day?
Well, first of all, man, I remember early on, probably about third or fourth training session, one thing I picked up on, and I knew he was a lot of people don't know Jameis was an honors graduate out of high school, honor society. I mean, Beta Club member. I mean, he was a natural, brain as it was academically. And then once I started to realize, because sometimes some people can't marry that academics with that athletics, and I realized, wow, he's a savant on the field and off the field. Early on, it was just his ability to apply. Of course, everybody see the arm talent. You see the athleticism, you see the throws, you see the obvious intelligence that he has and his ability to beat you from the pocket. But what threw me off from day one and made me just took me to another level was his ability to apply. You could tell him something in a short period of time, and he would know it and be able to apply it and do it immediately. It wouldn't with certain kids, it take 4 or 5 months to turn stuff over. Jameis could have it done in 4 or 5 minutes, and I knew then his ability to just pick it up and put it down was just unmatched. And that's when I knew that he would be special, just with the obvious tangible attributes, but it was the intangibles for me, and the leadership skills were through the roof at a young age.
Yeah, Coach, with Jameis, he obviously won a Heisman Trophy, a national championship, was the number 1 overall pick, had a successful early fraction of his NFL career, and he did that before he got LASIK surgery. It came out and turned out that Jameis was doing and accomplishing all these things while, I don't want to say barely being able to see, but with subpar vision. To me, that is one of the most incredible accomplishments, knowing how much goes into playing the quarterback position to do what he did without being able to see. Were you aware that Jameis needed LASIK, and does that make what he did until he got LASIK even that much more impressive in your eyes, considering the fact he was not seeing crystal clear but still throwing touchdowns all over the field?
Yeah, I mean, of course, you know, Jameis was just raised, his dad, and I got to give his dad credit for this, Antonor Winston, and his mom, Loretta Winston. You know, when I first got Jameis from the very beginning, he's just a no-excuse kid and a man now. You know, I call him a kid because he's been with me so long, but he's a man, obviously. But he's just a no-excuse man, and there's a lot of things that Jameis was battling through, even in his early years in Tampa, some of the injuries and some of the, you know, of course, we know about the stigma he had with his eyes and some of the other things, but he just never was going to make an excuse. So to tell you that I knew how bad it was, I didn't even know sometimes, because Jameis is just not, I mean, you talking about somebody absolutely will not make an excuse. And sometimes that almost goes to his detriment, because a lot of times people didn't know what he was dealing with physically, even in some of his years in Tampa, and some of the you know, you later find out goes on to the Saints and win a game against Atlanta Falcons with a broke back, a torn peroneal tendon, coming off an ACL, and most quarterbacks and most people wouldn't even thought about playing. If they would have had a caveat in the middle of it. He never made any excuses. So to tell you I knew about how bad the stigma was, I knew it was one, but I didn't even know, because that's just not him. He's not going to make any excuses. And that's part of the foundation of who his dad and mom raised him to be.
Otis, I want to ask you about just your relationship with NFL teams, but first, we were playing a video earlier. I seen that was Jameis in the helmet swinging a golf club. I've never seen that before. As we talk about unorthodox training tactics, what is the benefit to that? Because that looked really interesting to me.
Well, I can tell you one thing I know about most great athletes that make it to the NFL level, and you got a guy that's been to the NFL level on that set, and I'm sure he can testify to this. They are multi-sport athletes, and a lot of time cross-training, you get a skill. By being a football/basketball player, you can get skills from doing that you can't get from other things. Well, you naturally know swinging actually, I don't even know, that's actually a baseball bat if we're looking at that.
Okay.
That's actually just a small baseball bat. But what we were trying to do and what we done, and we have swung the golf club, because if you look at the force and the way you use ground force to drive a golf club, that's some of the same foundational muscles you're going to use on the back half to throw that football. But we went back to baseball, because you got to think, man, Jameis was a lot of folks forget, a Division I starting baseball player, and his whole time through Florida State, when he was at his most successful, he played football and baseball. So we make sure that he hones in on those skills, because there are certain things that happen in baseball that we don't want to lose that still apply to his football game. So that's why you see a lot of the cross training, and most great athletes were 2 and 3 sport athletes.
I'm curious. I've never asked this before to you guys who are personal quarterback coaches. When you've got a guy like Jameis, and I'm thinking like Quincy Avery with Deshaun, what's that relationship like when the NFL team has their own quarterbacks coach that they obviously trust? Is it always a sympathetic relationship? Is it ever clash with what you want guys to do and how you train guys and teach guys and how the NFL wants it to do? I'm just curious how NFL teams view guys like yourself and Quincy, who have coached these quarterbacks since they were kids or since college or whatever, and there's obviously a lot of trust in that deep relationship there. How do those things align?
Well, first thing is, I would be remiss to not correct it. I am technically not Jameis's quarterback coach. Jameis worked with a guy by the name of John Beck, who actually is his actual technique quarterback coach. What I am, I've been his strength and conditioning guy. I have been his foundational guy, helping him build his athletic foundation since high school.
Okay.
A mentor. I mean, I have been with him through that whole way, but I can't speak to that relationship because I have been there. Just like prime example, as his primary strength coach, I also worked with his guys at the Cleveland Browns, and when he was at the Saints and Tampa Bay, I worked hand in hand with the strength coach to let them know some of the things that we have been doing in the summer to make sure that the goals in which we set from a strength and conditioning standpoint and from an athletic training standpoint are being met. So it really is a good marriage because, again, the way the NFL is cut back with the PA making all the different rules as far as it pertains to time that coaches can actually spend with athletes, it gives you an opportunity. And with me being an ex-NFL guy, I don't have any issue with going in, no ego whatsoever with merging with these guys and making sure we're on the same accord with building the athlete. So I can speak directly to that from the strength and conditioning side. Again, I am not his actual fundamental quarterback coach. I am not that guy. So I want to correct that because I think sometimes that can be one of the mishaps that's being spread online as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Coach O, you know, back in your prime when you was banging, you know, and Jameis in his prime, you coming off that edge, you know, and Jameis is at quarterback, you making the sack, or is he good enough to elude you?
Hey, man, I'm a competitor. I'm a competitor, so we going to go at it, man. We going to go at it, you know. Hey, we still go at it. Still to this day, I'm out there today chasing him down, man. Believe it or not, at 46 years old. So we go at it, man. But it's the competitive nature, man. We gonna go at it, man. We laugh about some of that stuff now, but of course, man, hey, he a lot younger than me right now, so it's his moment. I had my moment in the sun, man. But that's a funny question.
Coach, when we talk about Jameis, because we love Jameis. Like, I think he's awesome. Every time he's in front of a camera, he makes us laugh. Can you give us a Jameis story that, not necessarily special to you, but a Jameis story that we probably haven't heard about, kind of the person Jameis is away from the football field, not just the player he is on the football field?
Man, I can just go on and on. Matter of fact, we just did a camp here in Birmingham, Alabama. Well, we did a whole weekend. Jameis comes back. He does a library deal where he goes into his old the city he grew up in, Bessemer, Alabama, and pass out books and supports and sponsor a reading program they're doing in Bessemer. And then he was able to this deal to bring in Inky Johnson, who actually did a leadership seminar, and we were all a part of that symposium. But I can just go on and on with the man that Jameis is. I mean, I'm just using recent. Just as recent as last weekend, he came back and put probably close to $100,000 in inner city youth in Birmingham and touched over 1,000 kids in just a 3-day period. So for me, one of the greatest stories is the man that I've watched him become, because again, like I say, just as recent as this weekend, you know, he comes back and blesses the whole city of Birmingham with his leadership symposium, a youth camp, and his deal that he does at the library in Baltimore, Alabama. So for me, the greatest stories of Jameis Winston is the man that he's become, not just the quarterback, but the man.
Awesome. Coach Otis, we really appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us today. We apologize for the technical difficulties. When you're in Cleveland next, if you want to stop by, I'd love to have you in studio and talk some more about football and Jameis and what you guys are doing with the Just Win program and your training program. So, Coach, we appreciate you. Thank you so much, and have a blessed rest of the day.
All right, guys. Hey, I appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity and not just going with the narrative. And man, I'm looking forward to this opportunity in Cleveland. I'm loving the way all you guys are handling business in Cleveland. And look forward to speaking with you guys again as this season rolls along.
Awesome. That is Coach Otis LeVert, former NFL player, Jameis's trainer, not his quarterback coach, his trainer. And that's why Jameis is in as good a shape as any guy in the NFL. Coach, we appreciate you, and have a great rest of the day, my friend.
All right.
Awesome. We're going to go from some Browns with Jameis Winston. Earl, we got a read. We're going to bring in Danny Cunningham of the Locked On Cavs podcast here in 1 sec.
Yeah, the read today is just subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Make sure you ring the bell. Even check out Overtime, all that good stuff. Joining us right now from the newest host of Locked On Cavs and my homie from 92.3 The Fan, Danny Cunningham. Danny, what's up, bro? Thanks for joining the show.
Of course. What's going on, guys? How's everyone doing today?
We are doing well. Danny is your new host of the Locked On Cavs podcast, so make sure you guys check that out. It's a daily podcast wherever you find your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's on all platforms, so make sure you guys give Danny a follow and a subscription because he's putting out Cavs content on the daily. Danny, I want to start with this. The Cavs have yet to hire a head coach. They've had multiple in-person interviews. Are you surprised it's taken this long for the Cavs to make any type of announcement to formally make someone their new head coach?
I'm a little surprised that it's taken this long, but I also think that they're in a position where, there is one other head coaching opening with the Lakers, but I don't necessarily think that they're competing for candidates. I know James Borrego's been mentioned out in Los Angeles, but I think a lot of people would be pretty surprised if it's not JJ Redick, and the Cavs really haven't been connected to him. So I am a little surprised that it's taken this long. I know Kobe Altman mentioned at his postseason availability that they ideally would like to have someone in place by the NBA draft, although that might be a little bit aggressive for them, but that's next week. And I sort of, at this point, I know they want to be thorough, but I also don't exactly know what they're still waiting for. I think James Borrego probably is going to be the guy. That's my best guess. But time will tell, I suppose.
When you look at all the moves that they have to make this offseason, obviously the Donovan Mitchell extension, I don't want to talk about that one. I actually want to talk about Evan Mobley. Do you think he should get the rookie max extension? I think that's what it is he's eligible for. Or do you think they should wait until next year to let him sign a deal?
So I think it makes sense to give him that big extension this year. And that extension, it's not the same one Donovan Mitchell is eligible to sign in terms of money. It's far less percent of the cap for the Cavs. I think that they should, because when you drag this out, and let's play this out, say they don't sign him, he becomes a restricted free agent next summer. And that is something that can be somewhat damaging at times to relationships between teams and players. I know Evan hasn't progressed offensively the way that just about everybody thought he would to this point, but he is still a really good basketball player. He's a phenomenal defender. I think there's a lot of stuff that simple tweaks can make his offensive game much more impactful. So I would give him that extension this summer. I think it's something that the Cavs will do. I would be pretty surprised if he's not on he'd be on the last year of his rookie deal this year, but if he's not on that rookie max extension 2 years from now, I think that's the most likely outcome here.
I'm with you. I think Evan gets the max. I don't think there's much of a question over that. I think Donovan resigns. The one I'm curious about is Isaac Okoro. Is he on this team next year? Do you think he's on this team next year?
I think so, because I don't know what his market's going to be elsewhere. Like, there's not a ton of teams, Jason, you know this, with a ton of cap room. And the teams that I do think have a lot of cap room, are they going to overpay for Isaac Okoro to the point where the Cavs wouldn't match that offer? I don't see a situation out there, and maybe he finds something, in the sign and trade market that makes more sense for him, but I'm not necessarily sure I see a really good avenue for him to be out of Cleveland. I don't necessarily think he's going to be on the Cavs for the rest of his career, but I think he's back next year. I think he's a very useful piece too. I do wonder if, he becomes a more willing shooter, how much more valuable he can be, or if that backcourt is split up, and I know we can talk about that too, but if he's playing more of the two guard alongside Donovan Mitchell, if that's something that sort of allows him to be a little bit more impactful too.
Yeah, Dan, before I ask my next question, my executive producer said your shirt reminds him of me. So what does your shirt say? I can only see like the top half of the letters.
It says "Hoops for Breakfast."
Oh, yeah, that's a great shirt.
It's just a simple Nike graphic shirt that says "Hoops for Breakfast." It was I've got it on today because it's clean.
Hey, elite shirt, and I appreciate that, Steve Becker, I guess. Dan, my question though is, you mentioned Okoro possibly playing the two. When I look at the Cavs' big picture, they had so many role guys who you never knew if you were going to get a great performance or a terrible performance. And there was kind of very little in between, especially come playoff time. Okoro was a nothing. Niang was a nothing. LeVert is the epitome of the roller coaster, either here or there. I think I'm kind of over the Cavs with their entire cast of role players being completely volatile, and I'd prefer some more consistency. So with that in mind, Karis LeVert's a guy who could potentially be moved this offseason. I know he's not one of the big names we've talked about on this show a lot, but would you be in favor of moving LeVert for maybe someone a little more stable if the right deal is on the table for the Cavs in that regard?
I would be, but I think with Karis LeVert, I think it's smart to think a little bit bigger there, because if you put together, and we know that the Cavs have privately been saying, and other teams have been saying, that the Cavs don't want to break up their core four. But if you combine Karis LeVert's contract and Jarrett Allen's contract, you can get up to $36 million there. LeVert's making, I believe, just around $16 million next year. You could trade two guys for a bigger piece on the wing that is a little bit, brings more of that consistency that you're looking for, is a better basketball player, someone that is a better fit alongside what the rest of the Cavs have. That's what I would be looking for, because I'm not sure what sort of value Karis LeVert has just as himself, as a contract in the trade market. So I do think that if you're looking to move him, you might want to combine him with another salary just to be able to get something that's a little bit bigger and a better talent for the Cavs back.
What do you think the Cavs' best option moving forward is? Is it to keep the core four, or do you think they should trade one or two of those pieces for something better?
I think the best option is to break it up. I understand that continuity is something that's rare in the NBA, and it's really good when you have it. But I think Donovan Mitchell's a superstar. I do. And I think he and Darius Garland can work together in the backcourt. But in the front court, the Cavs aren't getting the most out of Evan Mobley. And I think that when they traded for Donovan Mitchell, that was a move that raised the floor of this organization. Like, if everyone's healthy, they're going to be a team that is a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. They absolutely have the capability of winning a playoff series, maybe 2. He's that floor raiser. But I still think Evan Mobley is the ceiling raiser for this team. And I don't think that Evan Mobley can get to his potential where the Cavs need him to be, where the Cavs thought he would get to when they made that Donovan Mitchell trade, if he's not playing center more often than not. And he can't play center more often than not if Jarrett Allen's still on the team. So that's the move that I would make. And I also think Jarrett Allen's value is probably about as high on the trade market as it's going to get. Think about coming off the Knicks series last year, how low it was. And then he had a fantastic season. I think he's a pretty sought-after guy from other teams in the NBA. So that's the move I would make, because I think that, one, you'd get a lot back, and two, that's sort of how I think you unlock Evan Mobley, and that's got to be a pretty important thing for the Cavs.
Who's your pick at coach? Who do you want him to hire?
For me, it's Borrego. That's the guy. I like him. I think what he did in Charlotte, and I understand that organization really was a mess before he was there, certainly at times when he was there, and has been since. But if you look at what they were able to do offensively with a young LaMelo Ball, and Jason, it's really difficult in the NBA to be good offensively with a rookie or second-year ball-dominant guard. That just does not happen often. And for them to be, I think they were 6th in offense LaMelo's rookie year, that's something that shows me, okay, he can, if he's the guy, he's someone that can optimize this offense. And I think that's what's so badly needed, because the bones of this team being a good defensive team are going to be there just by who's on the roster. I think they really need someone that can kickstart the offense. And I think Borrego would be that guy. I like Kenny Atkinson a lot too. I think it matters that he's been in a great organization for the last several years in Golden State. And I also really liked a lot of the stuff that he did in Brooklyn on those young early Nets team before Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving got there, that a lot of Cavs fans watched because the Cavs had Brooklyn's pick that year. But I like a lot of the stuff that he was able to do there. And then being around Steve Kerr and the Warriors the last several years, I think is a really good thing for him too as a future head coach.
I like Borrego too, for the record. I did a whole film breakdown on how his offense would translate to the Cavs' current personnel last week. If you want to check it out, it's on our YouTube page. And his last year in Charlotte, when they made the playing game with 43 wins, they were actually 2nd in the NBA with 115.2 points per game. He does get the most out of young guards, and especially young guards that are necessarily not as tall as LaMelo Ball, because Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham had their career years under Borrego. Danny, we talked about this in the show last week. I'm curious what you think. In your dream ideal scenario, who's the one guy the Cavs, and you could go as crazy as you want or keep it in the terms of realisticness if you want. Who's your ideal addition to this Cavs team?
I think the dream addition would probably be Mikal Bridges from Brooklyn. I don't know the direction that Brooklyn's going to want to go in this summer. I think they're pretty far away from being a team that's competitive. I know they were a team that has been talked about as one that could sign Donovan Mitchell next summer if he didn't sign a contract extension and the Cavs didn't trade him. But I just don't see their avenues right now. And I know they have a lot of other organizations' picks. They don't have their own picks, but they have quite a few picks from other organizations. I'm not sure the avenues they have to be a real quality contender over the next couple of years. And I think that Bridges is someone they could get a lot for, and I think he fits Cleveland perfectly with everything that he does. I think he's miscast in Brooklyn as their best player right now, but if he's your second or third best player the way he would be here, I think that's pretty awesome. And he handles a lot on the wing. He's a really good defender. He can make shots. He can create for himself and others, especially if he's in a little bit of a lower usage role than what he's in Brooklyn right now. I think adding him to this roster, obviously you'd have to give up something, but if you've got Mikal Bridges, Donovan Mitchell, and Evan Mobley, that's a really good best three.
When you look at the trade that the Cavs made to acquire Donovan Mitchell, looking at it today, how do you grade that trade?
I think it is, as of right now, a win, and I think the moment Donovan Mitchell puts pen to paper on a contract extension, you can kind of close that door on it not being a good trade. If the Cavs acquired a superstar, and yeah, they gave up a lot to get him in terms of draft capital, Lauri Markkanen's become a terrific player in Utah, but the Cavs got the best player in that deal. When Donovan has been healthy on the Cavs, he's been a top 10 player in basketball. He finished 6th in MVP voting last year. I think he was on track to make the All-NBA team again this year. He's been fantastic. Yeah, some of those draft picks have the opportunity to be pretty painful, but if Donovan signs the extension and stays in Cleveland, the burden that those draft picks carry, I think, goes down quite a bit, and it really tilts the scale in the Cavs' favor as far as that trade goes.
What'd you think of the finals? I was watching the Red Sox and Blue Jays last night. That's how much I enjoyed.
Man, I mean, I expected more, and I think that was obviously foolish of me because, I thought I have bought into Luka. Like, I think Luka Doncic is obviously a fantastic player, probably one of the 3 best in basketball. It's very clear he's beat up, and Boston is just, for as I think uninteresting as they are, they're just better than everybody else right now. They are. It's weird because all of their advanced numbers and even their record just points to them being a historic team, and maybe you guys feel differently about this. But when I watch this, I'm like, yeah, they're pretty good. But I don't put them in the same breath as the Warriors when they added Kevin Durant or some of the other really great teams in basketball history. It was certainly not what the NBA needed. Like the NBA, I thought needed a longer series, needed a better series, a more competitive series. It was without question disappointment, and I can't blame you for watching Red Sox Blue Jays last night, Jason. There were better things on TV than Game 5 of the finals, and as just a basketball fan,
yeah,
I hate that I'm saying that, and I feel like it's true.
Well, here's the point I made earlier for all the people, and I'm not saying you're wrong on this, but for all the people who wanted rid of super teams and wanted an even playing field, here you go. This is what you're going to get with parity comes. So, now, this is a little bit to the extreme because so many teams were hurt that Boston had to go through. But it was not a compelling postseason at all because the star-power-driven teams were not part of it. And I absolutely believe that is going away with the new CBA and the second apron is real. And the levers it takes away from you are real. And I just think that this very much could be the future of NBA playoffs, good or bad, right or wrong. And now the NFL's made a killing with parodying with someone different winning every year. I'm not sure the NBA can have the same fate. They lost a lot of money. For all the TV contracts that they're going to sign and all the money they're going to sign, they lost their ass this year with that series going 5 games. That's not a good look for the league in terms of financial revenue.
No, it's not. And I do wonder how other matchups would have looked. I think Minnesota was just always a bad matchup for Denver. But if you got Denver against Boston in the finals, how does that look? Obviously we'll never know. I think that just because everyone that Boston faced was hurt, it made for they were never stressed, and I just don't think it makes for good postseasons when even if you've got a dominant team, it doesn't make for good postseason unless that team gets stressed at a certain point or LeBron James is involved. And obviously neither of those things happened with Boston.
And none of the stars for either team played particularly well start to finish throughout the series. There was guys injured. We talked about the Celtics a little before you got on, Danny, about their historical dominance, but they would just seem to play with their food a lot. And until crunch time came, they would just kind of waltz through the motions, and it'd be an 8-point game. Then, all right, let's decide to actually play, and we win by 17. I saw a stat. They actually won. In the 101 games they played this year, they led 50 of those by 20 points or more at some point during the game, which is absurd, which means they're way better than we probably think they actually were, and they just didn't give a crap for most of the game. With that being said, Danny, one thing I took away from this finals, especially watching the coverage of the finals, is we are moving from a period of media where the game was the most important thing to now it's the drama and the ancillary topics surrounding the game way more than the game itself. Did you get the same sense watching especially how ESPN and their halftime show and Get Up and the ESPN shows in particular, and only because it was on ABC and ESPN, I'm singling them out, on how they covered the finals, that we're moving away from the game itself and into an era where all the other things, who's the best player, the extensions, legacy game for Kyrie in Game 3 when he obviously had the biggest game of his career in Game 7 here in the finals, where those storylines are becoming more important than the actual basketball itself?
I think we've been there for a little while in the NBA because, some of the things that everyone always wants to talk about is, who can my team trade for? Who can my team sign this offseason? And I do think a lot of that, and I think this is a very big picture discussion that I'm sure we don't have time for today, but a lot of that is kind of how content is consumed, right? Like this right now is being watched by however many number of people on YouTube. Like 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. So now you've got kids that might not actually even be watching these NBA games, but they're seeing highlights on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok. So they're consuming the game differently. So it does make some sense and I'm not saying this is how I want to consume this stuff, to be clear. Like, I want the games to matter. I care about the games. I love the game. But it's so much easier to go out there and to put together a 90-second clip of why, the Cavs should do this and put it on TikTok and watch how many views roll in, and that's how you can boost your profile. So I do think that's why some of these media companies are going in that direction. I think it probably started about the time LeBron went to Miami with the decision being on ESPN. Like, I actually think that is a pretty big pivot point when it comes to how basketball has been covered, how it's been talked about. And then it's also, you watched that halftime show last night. I didn't have a stopwatch on it, but how long did the studio team actually talk about basketball during the halftime show? They get like 2 minutes between all of the commercials. So like it is putting those guys in a bit of a tough position, because what are you supposed to do if you've got 5 people on a panel at halftime? You've got about 2 minutes and 30 seconds total. You've got to get in, you've got to get out. That leaves about 2 minutes for 4 people to make a point. That's a tough ask. That's a very tough ask.
And for the record, we do plenty of trade rumors and free agency rumors and all that stuff here on this show. So I'm well aware we're calling the kettle, what's it called? The
pot calling the kettle black.
Pot calling, yeah. I understand that we do a lot of that stuff too. But to see ESPN, who's covering the game and has the halftime show for the game, kind of stray in that direction, kind of opened my eyes. But I guess you are right. It's not the first time it's happened, and it certainly won't be the last time. Danny, we appreciate you taking some time to join us today. Make sure you guys check out Danny Cunningham, the newest host of the Locked On Cavs podcast. It is every day. Is there a set time, Danny, or does it depend on what you're feeling when it comes out?
So, I mean, if something big happens, like if the Cavs decide in 30 minutes they want to hire James Borrego, like I'll get an episode up about as quick as I can once I can digest some thoughts. But for the most part, it comes out on YouTube around 11 o'clock at night, and it hits your podcast feed first thing in the morning, about 5 a.m. It should be in Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome. Danny, appreciate you taking some time. We'll see you again on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Make sure you check him out on the Locked On Cavs podcast. Thanks, Danny.
Anytime, guys.
That was Danny Cunningham of the Locked On Cavs podcast. Some good insight. He took over for Evan and Chris, and now Danny is running and doing his thing with the show. So make sure you guys check it out.
Good for him.
Oh, we got any super chats today?
No, we don't, but you can wrap this thing up with some final thoughts.
Final thoughts?
Well, I haven't done a final thought in...
Coach Otis texted us and said when he's in Cleveland he wants to come on. So
he's welcome anytime. That'd be fun.
I want him to put us through some drills. I want to see Jason go through some of those quarterback drills.
I got my back heel.
Apparently, he's fit. He lifts how many times a week now?
3.
You lift 3 times a week.
Well, the class is 3 times a week. The class is Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'm there probably 1 or 2.
What's up, bro?
I'll try and get there 3. And I saw you smirking when he's talking about multi-sport athletes and everything.
Yeah, I know.
Last time you held a golf club, it wound up in the water. So you can just pipe down over there with the golf club.
See, that's the thing. Like I say, y'all, all everybody remember is the golf clip. But y'all wasn't there to see what happened after the golf clip.
Yeah, you swimming in the lake to go get it?
No, I didn't. I actually took some more swings, because people continue. Which is weird. They hear the story about me throwing a club in the water,
and then they hand you one of their clubs.
Continue to say, you know what?
Give you one of my clubs.
We want to see you go again.
I would never give you one of my clubs.
So my last one, I ended up hitting like 5 more times on that same spot, and my last one was on the green.
Are you a big golfer?
I haven't played at all this year. I mean.
Do you want to play in July?
No, he doesn't.
Actually, I'm at. Are you talking about Austin Cars?
Yeah.
I'm doing Austin's Audi. That might be the.
So you're already there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That might be the first time.
You going? You a golfer?
I'm not golfing, but we're doing a live show from there.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Who is we?
Okay.
What day is that on?
It's a Monday.
July. What is it?
July 15th.
Has nothing to do with me.
15th. So if you want to stop on, we're doing a live show from out there.
Yeah. I said I would. I mean, yeah, I'm part of it.
Cool.
But I haven't golfed at all this summer. Normally, I go out.
That's not
the COVID summer. I golfed all summer long.
You telling me
great.
golf isn't something that you could just pick back up and be good at it still?
I mean, you're not good at. I'm not. It doesn't matter how often I play. I'm just not.
I hate golf so much.
I think if I become consistent, like if I golf for like 2 straight weeks, I think I could be really good.
No.
The COVID summer.
I do.
Chris Fedor and I played all summer, and I would just go on Twitter and say, "Where should we play this week?" and then wait for a course to invite us to play for free because I'm so cheap. I don't pay for golf. I only play if it's free.
I hate it.
So if you ever see me on Twitter going, "Where should we play this week?" That's nothing but just me groveling and begging for a course to say, "Hey, come on out and play." I'm like, "All right, we'll be there."
Oh, you had.
That's a shame.
You want to chime in for a second?
That's such a shame.
What? What's wrong with that?
Oh no,
as much money as you make.
Training camp dates.
I ain't wasting on golf.
The rookies for the Cleveland Browns report on July 22nd. The veterans report on the 24th, and of course they depart for the Greenbrier on said day.
And they start the Greenbrier, right? That's where they start training camp this year.
I think
you going out there.
I am. Yeah.
Can I go with you?
If you pay for gas.
Doesn't the Athletic cover that?
Yeah, they do. But if I can scam him for $50.
He gets 2 rounds of golf.
Yeah, I'll go out for
hilarious.
I'm going for a couple days to start. Probably. Last year I went at the end. This year I'll probably go at the start.
Phil Dawson's 2024 Ring of Honor guy for the Browns now.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
UCSS guest Phil Dawson. So shout out to Phil.
When does Cade York go in?
I can't believe he's back with the team, by the way.
I don't know what you can't believe.
Like, think of the circle for Cade York from where he started to making the field goal against Carolina to now coming all the way full circle in less than – it's all happened in the realm of the show.
Well,
it's all happened in the realm of this particular
if
show.
Dustin Hopkins gets hurt again.
Do you trust Cade York if he gets hurt again?
He's done it before. He's done it before.
Hey, I have a question for you, actually. So you played special teams.
I did.
With the new kickoff rules, do you think you would have been not a better special? Would you have been more valuable in today's NFL with the current kickoff rules?
On what? On kickoff or kickoff return?
Both, either.
Well,
like as a guy who was a backup secondary guy and a
yeah.
You would have been more valuable. And how would your skill set have fit into the way these new kickoffs work?
Due to the fact that the new way makes it to where anybody can. I feel like anybody can make the tackle on this thing now. I feel like on the old kickoff, you had to have speed. Like it was, they had your best players was in the middle. Was your 2 5s in the middle? It go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The ones was nothing but the safeties. The 5s was the players that had no rules. They went straight down the field. They could switch lanes, cross over, all of that because they didn't have no rules. Everybody else had integrities. They had assignments that they had to do. And the 4s kind of fitted off the 5s. But now that it's only 5 yards apart, like that's nothing but like block destruction. That's just boom, look at the 2-gap him, look where the ball at, throw him to the side and make the play. Like, and I was really good, especially at the end of my career with my hands. So I feel like if you good with your hands, you could shock, shed somebody and get off. Like you'll make a ton of plays on that on kickoff. As far as the kickoff return, I'm gonna let y'all know something. Every NFL player hates kickoff return except for the returner. Everybody else hates kickoff return. They pray to God that ball gets kicked out of the back of the end zone because it's no worse feeling than trying to block somebody that's running full speed, a backup linebacker that's a fifth string that's never going to play, that's been in the weight room, or it's that fullback that don't even get no utilization. He got to come down the field, 40-yard head start. You got to turn around and try to catch this man. It is ridiculous. So now that is gone and it's only 5 yards, I wouldn't mind that. All you got to do is really just block or rip and run the numbers and just get your dude a seam. He should be able to make it through that.
I know we got like 30 seconds. How much is this going to change who is on the field?
I think you got to put your best blockers because now they ain't got to worry about
will starters be
somebody's
on special teams more?
No,
no,
they're not doing that.
Okay,
they're not doing that.
All right.
I did hear the Chiefs, and I know we got 10 seconds. The Chiefs want Justin Reed to do their kickoffs because they think the kicker is going to be a valuable tackler in the situation, as opposed to having Dustin Hopkins try and chase the window.
I can see that.
So maybe that'll be something we see. We'll see in overtime. We talk about the Ravens disgusting new uniforms.